It is overtime here at Old Favorite Friday, where we are continuing the conversation about Boulevard's Nutcracker Winter Warmer. Now, Ralph, I was just telling you this. I have to admit, this was recommended for us to try, and I know Boulevard very, very well. But I've never had this beer until yesterday when I tried it for the first time. Because even though we get recommended beers all the time, we have to make sure that we love those beers and we really enjoy them, because we want to speak of a place of passion and authority on these beers. So I gave the beer a try, and it was nothing like I expected. For me, a winter warmer is typically very malt forward, even borderline a little bit sweet. So going into this, I was expecting that. Is this beer like that, Ralph?
This beer is nothing like that, which I actually find quite nice, because like you said, usually when I think of winter warmers, I think of malt flavors, even sometimes like a spice character, depending what they're doing. And this one, while it has that malt backbone, to me is very much hop driven. I'm even getting a couple, while they're mild compared to some things, a couple of like fruit aromas that I associate with hops, where I'm like, oh, that in a winter warmer. But I think it works really well, especially this time of year when you have so many of these. It kind of breaks up a little bit of that monotony of the same thing.
Well, that's a good point, because we come from the Belgian brewing tradition here at Barrel of Monks, and our Christmas beer called Father Christmas, big, rich, somewhat sweet, fruity Belgian dark strong ale. And we see a lot of those coming out around this time of year in the Belgian tradition, the winter warmer style, even some of the lagers that come out, the dark lagers will borderline on those kind of flavors. But we do have a lot of beers like Celebration, and we do have a lot of hoppy beers that come out around this time. So the variation in style for Christmas beers or holiday beers is really vast. And I really like this take on it. I think it's really, really interesting to marry those two things together. We've done a lot of videos recently where there have been malt forward beers with a good, hop forward beers with a good malt backbone. And this is right up there with it. The other thing I have to say is, we were talking about it's a winter warmer. You want to warm it up a little bit, right? Sure. You don't want to drink this beer freezing cold, because really you're getting a lot of the hop aspect of it, but not the malt aspect of it.
Exactly, and in that way, you're gonna lose something, because in this way, I think it's a nice balancing act that they pulled off. So you want that malt to kind of prop up those hops and kind of keep everything in balance. Because one thing to kind of even go back to the uniqueness that I like about this is when we say hop driven too, it's got a bitterness to it, and nothing overwhelming, but with everything being sweet, no matter what the style, it just seems to be across the board is generally sweet now, that this is even more so unique because it's very malty. It's got that like character, but there's none of that cloying even remotely close to that.
No.
And so it makes it super drinkable for...
Yeah, I mean, even in the classic sense of malt sweetness, which is not overbearing, it's not, for people on the inside, it's not 10 Plato finishing gravity, but even in that range of a classic style brown ale or something like that, this is more bitter than that, right? So it adds more bitterness to it, but you're still getting those rich caramel malts, you're still getting a little molasses, you're still getting some of those classic flavors, but you're really only getting them as it warms up a little bit, as those malts come out. And, so many people drink their beer way too cold, guys. Way too cold. I know that people want to give you a frosted mug. I know that it's a natural thing for most people, but not every beer needs to be that way. And if you're in the craft beer realm, there's not many beers, I'm talking about like style-wise, that you really want that. You do want your beer to get a little closer to room temperature, especially a dark beer like this, especially a beer with this kind of malt expression and overall flavor, because you're going to get more aroma, more flavor, you're going to enjoy the beer more.
Yeah, and I would agree with that 100%, because even historically, I mean, refrigeration in and of itself isn't that old. So like when these were being conceived and thought of, they would have been drank slightly warmer. So it wouldn't be a, like 39 degree, like you said, frosted mug that someone, I've even seen horrible people put ice in it, but that's a whole other, and their family stuff. But yeah, so you wouldn't drink it like that. And what I like about it is to kind of go back, talk about the maltiness a little bit, is it's very much like a bready, I want to say biscuity, but it's deeper than that, and I really like it because some of the even certain Belgian beers that I fell in love with, like, and I'm gonna butcher the name, but St. Pulin's or however you pronounce it, they had that where it wasn't like you said, it wasn't overly sweet in one way, like you had dark fruit, but it wasn't too much, but it's almost like this layers of sweetbread that this has as it warms that really just works well with this beer.
Great beer, great brewery. We've done several Boulevard beers for Old Favorite Friday for a reason. They're incredible. Another brewery that has a lot of Belgian influence to it, so we always respect that. And please go out and try this beer. I mean, I love this series because most of these beers I've had many times, right? Because they're classic beers. But every now and then I run into something like this for whatever reason. I never tried it. Maybe there's just way too many options out there. But it's a shame that I hadn't before. Shame on me. But now going forward, when this beer comes out, I'm going to make sure I grab myself a six-pack every year. It is the holiday tradition, as they say. It's been around since 2016. So go get your Nutcracker Ale from Boulevard, and please, ask us questions here on the YouTube channel. Let us know what beers we should be trying next week for Old Favorite Friday, and go around and see some of the other videos that Ralph and I and Joel and I talk about these really great beers and highlight them and talk about how great they are, and tell you why you should be drinking beers that you have no reason not to. How about that? All right, cheers. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.